Alright, first episode of the new series. Have I got everything? Script? Check. Webcam? Check. Poorly animated sidekick? Boy, get on with it! Check. Alright, just need one more thing. Commemorative screenshot! Oh man, I blinked! G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Screen School, the show where we overanalyze video games, movies, and TV shows to answer the most unimportant questions about life, the universe, and everything. Now, with this being the first episode, I thought I should tackle a franchise that is dear to my heart and constantly ignored by MatPat, Crash Bandicoot. As some of you loyal viewers will know from my One Life Challenge videos from last year, which you can check out in the upper right corner, Crash Bandicoot 2 was the first video game I ever played. My aunt brought it over when I was 4 and I fell in love instantly. And with the Insane Trilogy going multi-platform, now is the perfect time to ask a question that could potentially ruin my childhood. How deadly is Crash's spin attack? Cortex says in Twinsanity that
your creation was a mistake, and your existence has been a constant reminder of that mistake.
But just how big of a mistake was it? In order to figure out how deadly Crash's spin attack is, we need to calculate the force it's delivering on the target. And because it's a spinning motion, we specifically need the centripetal force, or centripetal force if you live in England. For those of you who skipped Year 10 science, centripetal force is basically a force that pushes outwards from the center of a spin. If you tie a tennis ball on a string and swing it around really fast, and then let go, the ball will fly off in a straight line. That's centripetal force in action. If we're going to calculate it, we'll need the mass, velocity, and radius of Crash's fist. And for the sake of consistency, I'm using the Insane Trilogy for all my measurements. But before we can take any of those measurements, we need to know the scale of the Wumpa Islands. In other words, we need Crash's height. Now, if watching game theory has taught me anything, it's that finding the height of a fictional character is no easy feat. But in this case, it's really simple. All we need is a real-world object of consistent size that appears in the games. And luckily for us, there is such an object in the motorbike levels of Crash Bandicoot Warped. The police cars. While the Insane Trilogy version of these cop cars look like they were designed by Dr. Seuss, the original is much more realistic, bearing a strong resemblance to the Mercury 8. Specifically the third generation Mercury 8, which was in production from 1949 to 1951, making it a perfect match for the time setting of these levels, and measured 5.253 meters or 17 feet from bumper to bumper. Knowing this, we can just crash into the side of one, do some pixel measurements, and boom! We find that Crash Bandicoot is 120 centimeters or 3 feet 11 inches tall, if you exclude the ears and mohawk. That might seem small by human standards, but remember, Crash is an Eastern Barred Bandicoot, which normally only goes to 35 centimeters. Hold it! What? Who said that? Oh, I did! Oh, hi Cedric. Everyone, this is Cedric the Wallaby. He likes to interrupt me with counter-arguments. What is it this time, Cedric? Well, you just calculated the height of classic Crash from the PS1, not modern Crash from the PS4. Plus, what about the human NPCs from Crash Tag Team Racing? Well, that is a fair point, Cedric, but in this case, it doesn't matter. Aside from the Komodo brothers being shorter and the gravity being stronger, every object in the Insane Trilogy is the same size relative to Crash as its PS1 counterpart. And as for Tag Team Racing, 1, it's not canon, and 2, Crash may have grown in that game. If we wanted to get his height across multiple games, we could use the crates as our ruler. except for tag team racing, which uses almost identical models to Twinsanity, but that's a theory for another day. Anyway, now that we know Crash's height, we can start taking our measurements. First, the mass. Now, unless Crash ends up using a water-powered jetpack in a future installment, we'll never be able to measure Crash's weight accurately. Thankfully, we don't have to. We don't need the mass of Crash's whole body, we just need the mass of his fist. Using this screenshot, I measured the individual volumes of Crash's palm and each of his 4 fingers. It was super painstaking and super boring, so I'll spare you the math. The total volume of Crash's hand is 0.00306 cubic meters, which is actually a little beefy. It's not much bigger than my hand. Now we take a trip to the DMV and multiply that number by the density of a human, which is 985 kilograms per cubic meter. And I know, Cedric, Crash isn't a human, but there's nothing to suggest that he doesn't have human density. Although I think we all know he's a lot more dense than most humans, am I right? Anyway, multiplying this out, we find that the mass of each of Crash's hands is 3.014 kilos or 6.64 pounds. That is a little beefy, but it's not going to do much damage unless it's traveling fast enough. Measuring from nose to wrist as Crash spins, we find the radius, which is another variable we need, to be half Crash's height, 0.6 meters or 1 foot 11. By doubling that and multiplying by pi, we find that the circumference of the spin at the point of the wrist is 3.77 meters or 12 feet 4 inches. So all we need to do now is find out how many times his arm covers that distance in 1 second, and we should have our velocity, right? You would think so, wouldn't you? But of course, video game developers are complete trolls because Crash's spin speed is immeasurable. You see, when Crash spins, his character model gets swapped out for one that has 4 faces and 8 arms, making it look like he's spinning faster than the model is actually rotating. It's cool from a development standpoint, but it's a good kick in the crystals for a theorist like me. The only game where this doesn't happen is Skylanders Imaginators, but how do we know he isn't just slowing down for that one? Sometimes this series can be a real pain in the neocortex. Wait. Neocortex.
Of course.
In Crash Twinsanity, there are moments where you have to play as Crash and Cortex at the same time. During these sections, the spin attack gets replaced with the twin spin. And while Crash still has octopus arms during this animation, there is only one Cortex model. And the hitbox for this attack is based on Cortex's position, not Crash's. So we now have an accurate way of measuring Crash's true spin speed. By slowing down the footage and going frame by frame, I found that it takes 0.2 seconds for Cortex to complete 1 full revolution. This means that Crash is at the lowest spinning at 5 revolutions per second or 300 RPM. So multiplying our circumference by 5, we get a velocity of 18.85 meters per second. That is over 67 kilometers or 42 miles per hour. That's faster than the speed limit on most public roads. And with that, we have everything we need to calculate the centripetal force of Crash's spin attack. 3.014 kilograms times the square of 18.85 meters per second divided by 0.6 meters equals approximately 1,785 newtons of centripetal force. So what does that number mean? Not that much, actually. The human rib can withstand up to 3,000 newtons without breaking, and leg bones like the femur and tibia can handle up to 4,000. And remember, Crash is only 4 feet tall. So if Crash is attacking a normal person from ground level, at most, the impact would knock you to the ground with moderate bruising on your abdomen. It would hurt, definitely, but it's not going to do any lasting damage. But that's assuming a normal person at ground level. Crash has the ability to jump while spinning and vice versa. And in every single game, Cortex is about the same height as Crash. And while the ribcage might be able to take 3,000 newtons, the C2 vertebra can only handle half that. So if Crash lands a headshot with his spin, your neck would snap instantly. Cortex created the most deadly marsupial ever to be his general, and it backfired so spectacularly that he would be dead by the third game. Class dismissed. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of Screen School. I'll be posting a new one of these at least once a month, but if you don't want to wait that long, I also do Let's Plays. And of course, be sure to follow me on Twitter at drrank08 as well. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.